The Air Force is apologizing to a U.S. senator who revealed that she is a survivor of a military sexual assault.
Arizona Republican Martha McSally, the first American woman to fly in combat, said sexual abuse nearly forced her to quit. She spoke to CBS This Morning's Nora O'Donnell about why she decided to share her story.
You've served in the military for 26 years. You've served in combat.
Yeah.
Why now?
It's not just as a commander that I speak, but it's as a survivor that I just felt I needed to talk about it. But it isn't about me. I wanted to give the perspective of why I am advocating so strongly for our women in the military, and why I'm advocating that the command chain has to step up and do their job to rid us of sexual assault.
Was it difficult for you to say it publicly in a forum like that?
It was. It brings back the very real memories and the realities of it all, but I'm glad I did.
Do you think the prevalence of sexual assault and abuse in the military is a national security threat?
I do. For sure, I don't want people to think like, well, maybe it's just all these problems we have now that are women in the military. Think about it. If you have a predator, if you have a rapist who's serving in uniform, you don't deal with it by keeping a woman out of their unit, because that predator is going to go assault someone else.
Joining us now from Virginia is Brian Clubb. He's the Military and Veterans Advocacy Program Coordinator for the Battered Women's Justice Project. So thank you so much for joining us. You know, one of the things that the senator said was that she did not come forward when she had been sexually assaulted. She said when she eventually did start to share her story, she almost felt like she had been sexually assaulted a second time by the military because the reaction was so bad. And she's not the only victim that has expressed this sort of thing. Why do victims find it so difficult to come forward?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Senator McSally for really talking about what happened to her. It was brave of her to do so. Definitely going to have a positive impact on her fellow survivors. And despite the fact that there was a Senate hearing yesterday on the subject of sexual assault in the military, we probably wouldn't be talking about this today if it weren't for her doing so. To answer your question, attempt to answer your question, there are a lot of reasons why sexual assault victims and survivors generally don't come forward. They often are concerned they won't be believed, no action will be taken against their abuser. They'll be blamed for what's happened to them. And military victims have, additional reasons. The very close working relationship you have with your fellow service members, the esprit de corps, the fact that you at some time may have to put your life in someone else's hands. But fear of how the reporting would affect her career, and Senator McSally may have very well been concerned about that. The superior-junior relationship, she mentioned that it was a superior officer who had done this to her. And overall, retaliation is an issue that the Department of Defense has been dealing with for some time now to address, whether it be retaliation by fellow service members, by your chain of command. And Senator McSally, having been the first female to fly a combat mission, and she was breaking ground when she first entered the aviation community. And I'm sure there are many individuals out there that wanted her to fail and other women to fail, and so she had that on top of everything else that other issues that may have prevented her from reporting.
Brian, you probably recall the tailhook scandal back in 1991, that symposium, that Marine Corps symposium, Navy symposium in Las Vegas, where dozens of women and some men, later we found out, alleged to have been sexually assaulted by superior officers, other officers, and Marines in that setting. And I think the world thought, okay, we're going to put some changes that will prevent things like this from happening. And clearly, when you hear Senator McSally's comments about what happened to her, that is not the case. And I wonder, is it something that needs to be addressed? Is it because we've seen we're in this moment now where a lot of women are coming forward in different industries to talk about sexual assault and sexual violence that has occurred against them in the workplace. Is this something specific to the military, or is this something that can be extrapolated to just all work environments in this country and elsewhere?
Well, I remember the tailhook scandal well. That was early in my career in the Marine Corps when that happened, and how it affected some individuals. In fact, at that time, I think every officer in the Marine Corps and the Navy had to sign a statement that they weren't there, or if they were there, that they weren't part of anything that happened at that time. But we're seeing it so much with the Me Too movement and what's going on generally in the United States right now, and so many well-known individuals that are coming forward. But on the military side of the house, it is an issue. It will always be an issue. We'll never get down to zero sexual assaults and zero sexual harassment within the military. It's working towards that goal. We don't know exactly when this happened to Senator McSally. She did mention that late in her career, she did tell some individuals about it. But there have been a lot of changes that have occurred within the Department of Defense over the last couple of decades. The creation of Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Program within the military, a restricted reporting option which allows victims to come forward, seek assistance, level of confidentiality without starting a military or criminal investigation, the creation of Special Victims Counsel, which are just a few years ago a program in which attorneys are assigned to victims to represent them and their rights throughout the process in the military. But really what was being discussed yesterday, a big part of the hearing yesterday, had to do with a fundamental change to the military criminal justice system, which would, if enacted, would take away the authority of commanding officers to be able to decide whether or not a prosecution goes forward. There have been significant changes to that in which now it's a general officer that has to determine that. But the debate yesterday was whether or not to totally take away that authority. And I know Senator McSally was against that. Others were against that yesterday, and I know Senator Gillibrand and others were for that happening.
Yeah, in fact, what she was saying was that it's incredibly important that the ranking officers are participants in changing the attitude within the military, that you can't just use an outside body to pass judgment. It's just not going to work because you have to change the culture too. But I want to ask you a question. Clearly things have been changing in a positive way because the number of people that are coming forward in the military to report being assaulted, that number's on the rise, but the number of convictions is not. What's going on?
Well, that's something that the Department of Defense, the increase in reporting is something the Department of Defense does know quite a bit, and their analysis of that is that the reporting system, is working, both restricted and unrestricted reporting, where an individual can come forward and start an investigation and start the whole 9 yards with what can occur within the military system, as well as going and seeking justice within the civilian criminal system. But as Colonel Christensen from Protect Our Defenders noted yesterday, while reports have gone up over the years, conviction rates have not. The other side of that has been that I know the senior legal officer for the Army pointing to a number of studies that have been done that tend to show that taking away this authority from commanding officers would not change much, and that the decision-making when analyzing cases in which they've determined to go forward or not go forward, that the decisions they've made have been correct based off of analysis of all the facts of the case or the individual cases. It's something that is very difficult. It's clear that no leadership within the Department of Defense promotes or advocates for sexual assault. The issue is what are the steps to be taken to improve the situation for victims and survivors when it comes to coming forward, the handling of their cases, and that's really what the key debate is right now.
And of course, as you see those numbers, the increases that have happened in the reporting of sexual assault and abuse in the military, you kind of wonder, has that always existed and now they're just reporting it more on a more consistent basis?
68% of victims do not report assaults.
Exactly right, exactly right. Brian Clubb, thank you so much, sir, for spending some time with us and explaining this really important topic. We appreciate it.
Thank you.